Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you can see by the title of this video, I wanted to talk about self-love and why it's so difficult to practice self-love. I feel like a lot of people, especially people who watch this channel, are on a self-love journey. I've been on my self-love journey for about, I want to say 4 years since I first started this channel, and throughout the process I've noticed and realized that it's not easy, and sometimes it feels damn near impossible. So I wanted to talk about why it feels that way, why self-love is so difficult, and also give you my methods of making it a bit easier to practice real self-love. And I'm gonna get into why I say real self-love, because there is a difference between self-love that is real and genuine versus self-love that is fleeting, or self-love that we think is self-love and it's really not. So when we are kids, when we are babies and children, we are supposed to be loved by our parents unconditionally. So they are supposed to meet all of our emotional needs without expecting anything in return. Because when we are babies and when we are children, we can't really give much of anything to anybody. We're of really no use to anybody. It's all about us, as it should be. It's all about us getting our emotional needs met. And so when a parent loves you properly, when you are in that state, it sends a very strong message to your subconscious that you are lovable just for existing. You know, you don't have to give anything to anybody. All you have to do is exist as a person, and you are valuable, you are worthy, and you are loved unconditionally, right? So the problem comes in when we have parents who do not know how to give us that unconditional love. And it's not always their fault, of course. Some of them just don't know how to give unconditional love because they themselves have never gotten it. And so they will emotionally abandon or emotionally neglect their children, and they may not be aware of this, because to them it's like, I'm giving you food, I'm giving you shelter, so I'm doing a good job as a parent, but the emotional needs are not met. And so it's not programmed into the child's mind that they are loved unconditionally, that they are valued just for existing. So what will happen is that the child will look around in search of what it is that makes them valuable, what it is that makes other people love them, right? And so that's where the conditional love comes in. So let's say that there is a family that's really big on academics, like they're very big on getting good grades. So every time they come home with a good grade, the parents praise them and they get this love, quote unquote. And I say love because, again, it is conditional love. And so what that does is send a message to the child's subconscious that, okay, I am lovable when I bring home good grades. So now their whole identity is wrapped up in getting good grades, being an overachiever, because they feel that's the only way that they can be valued and that's the only way that they can be loved. And as they grow older, it spirals into them only being able to love themselves when they are getting good grades, or when they are getting into a good college, or when they get a good job, or when they're able to be productive. You see what I'm saying? And that's dangerous, because that's not real self-love. Like, God forbid something happens to them where, you know, they have like a health issue and they can no longer be productive. Then where does that self-love go? Like, it goes right out the window, right? It's not real, it's not stable, you see? Another example could be, if, okay, let's say a girl, right? Let's say that she was never validated at home. She never got that unconditional love at home. So as she starts school, she notices that boys give her a lot of attention and validation because she is pretty, because she looks nice, you know? And so that will send the message to her subconscious that, oh, I'm valuable when I'm looking good. I'm valuable when I am pretty. You know, I'm valuable because of my looks. And so that will then spiral into her only being able to love herself when she feels like she is pretty, or when she feels like she looks good. And again, this is dangerous, because that's not real self-love. That is conditional love. And that's a form of self-love that can be very, it can be very confusing. Like, I've seen it on TikTok where people have been going on their self-love journey and they have been confessing that they thought the whole time that they love themselves because they like the way that they look. and it turns out that they actually don't love themselves underneath the surface of that. And that's why I say it can be very confusing, because in a society that really values looks, and we could even talk about the other example of being productive. In a society that values productivity, we can think, oh, I love myself, and you don't even realize that it's all an illusion and that it's something that's very fickle and it's not true unconditional love. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of us love ourselves conditionally without really realizing it. And when we go on our self-love journey, that's why it's so hard. It's embedded into our mind that we have to be doing something, or we have to be a certain way to be valuable, to be worthy. And again, it's not our fault, because these are things that are supposed to be programmed into your mind when you are a kid, when you are actually not required to do anything or not required to give anything. It's very difficult to cultivate this type of self-love when you are an adult. And it's especially bad nowadays because of social media, because whatever conditional love we give to ourselves, when we go on social media, there's someone who is better at whatever it is that we value in ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So the goalpost keeps moving. So if you're someone who values yourself just because you're pretty, you go on Instagram and surprise, there's a billion like beautiful women as you scroll down your timeline, and suddenly you are starting to feel a little bit insecure about your looks. And if you're feeling insecure about your looks, then your self-love starts to go out the window. You see what I'm saying? Or if you're someone who, like from the other example, are someone who's very productive, and you get your sense of self-worth or self-love from, you know, being productive or being successful, you scroll onto Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and there's so many successful people, so now you're feeling inadequate and you're comparing yourself, and that self-love goes out the window. You see, so that's why this conditional love is very dangerous, especially in the age of social media, and that's why it's so hard for us to genuinely love ourselves. And so I have some tips on how to start truly loving yourself and truly giving yourself unconditional love, and doing away with the conditional love that we've been fooled into thinking is actual self-love. So tip number 1, love yourself through your lows. I know that most of us do not like to go through low points in our life, but I have been able to kind of reframe it, and I see a low point in my life as an opportunity for me to practice genuine self-love. When you're at your lowest and you're still being kind to yourself, you're still nurturing yourself, you're still taking care of yourself, that is sending a very strong message to you that even when you are in your darkest times, even when you are not of value to people, like you're not able to give to people, you're not able to overexert yourself, you're not able to be at your best, when you are taking care of yourself still and nurturing yourself still and loving yourself through that still, that is sending a very strong message to your subconscious that I love myself unconditionally. You know, if your self-love is conditional upon your looks, like I'm just going to keep using the examples that I stated earlier. If your self-love is conditional based upon your looks, and you reach a point where you are just not feeling good about your looks, you're hitting a low point where you just feel so insecure about your looks. If you're able to love yourself through that anyway, nurture yourself through that, you know, list the things that you do love about yourself regardless, that is sending a very strong message of unconditional love to your subconscious. If you're someone who bases your love or your self-love on being successful or being productive, if you reach a low point where you're burnt out and you're not able to be as productive as you want to be, being kind to yourself, loving yourself, and nurturing yourself through that is once again sending a very, very strong message to your subconscious that you are loved unconditionally, that you don't have to be up and, you know, operating at a level 100 for you to be worthy of love. And doing this, it just kind of reminds me of the love that we were supposed to get as children when we were, like I said, not giving to anyone, when we were in a state where only our needs were the focus. It's like you kind of revert back to that state when you're at a low, and loving yourself while you're in that state is really going to reprogram your subconscious to start loving yourself unconditionally. Tip number 2 involves spiritual healing. Now, I know some people are not going to resonate with this, but I'm giving tips on what I do that works for me. So this is a very big part of my self-love journey. So in my remothering video, I talked about how our mother wound, like the wound of feeling worthless and feeling neglected, plays a very big role in our lack of self-love, right? And I talked about how our mothering wound goes beyond just a emotional wound. It goes deeper into like your soul. It feels more like a spiritual wound. And so I've come to find that spiritual healing has really helped me with self-love in a way that other methods have not. Because like I said, I feel like this wound of feeling worthless and not being able to love myself, it just goes far beyond anything emotional. It feels like a spiritual or soul wound to me. And so spiritual healing can look different for different people. I'm not going to really get too much into my process because we'll be here all day. But for the most part, I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. And I do have a very close relationship with God. And I find that I find my self-worth through God, like trying to see myself through God's eyes, praying, and just building and cultivating that very close relationship with this higher power. So I'm not saying that you have to believe in God. Like, I respect everybody's beliefs, but I'm just sharing what helps me, and that has really helped me to find unconditional love. So moving on to the final tip, which is sleep hypnosis, or I guess you could also call them subliminal messages. I have a video on how to reprogram the subconscious mind, and in that video I talked about the process of getting messages into your subconscious and how it's very difficult to send messages to your subconscious mind during the day because you're kind of like locked out of your subconscious mind during the day. It's kind of like set in stone, and the best way for you to really penetrate your subconscious mind is while you are sleeping. And so that's why a lot of people use like sleep hypnosis, or like they'll listen to subliminal messages while they're asleep, because it gives you direct access to your subconscious mind. I talk all about it in my video about the subconscious. And also I made a video about how to make subliminal messages, and YouTube flagged that video, gave me a strike on my channel and took it down. I have no clue why. There was no copyright in that video. So it's very, I don't know, it's very suspicious. It's very weird. So what I decided to do is to share my self-love subliminals on my Patreon. So I have 3 that I use on a daily. So the first one is brown noise. The second one is rainfall. And the third one is nature sounds. Now with all 3 of these subliminals, basically what I did was I took the sound, I layered it with self-love affirmations, and I said these affirmations in the first person and in the second person. I don't know if I mentioned that in my last video about the subconscious mind, but when you are sending affirmations to your subconscious, it's good to do them in first person and in second person. And I read that it's good to do this because, like I mentioned before, when we are children and we are getting our subconscious mind programmed, we're getting it programmed outside of us. We're having our parents or teachers or family members like affirming to us, you are special, you are lovable. So it's good for our subconscious to say it in the first person and say it in the second person. So like I said, what I do is I took all of these sounds, I layered them with the self-love affirmations in first person and in second person, and then I also layered 528 hertz pure tone. Now for those of you who don't know, 528 hertz is considered the self-love frequency. So a combination of those 3 things, the sound, the self-love affirmations, and the 528 hertz is the perfect combination to send these self-love messages directly to your subconscious. And I have 3 of them because I use them for different things. For going to sleep, like sleeping through the night and listening to the subliminal messages, I like to use the rain sounds because the rain to me is just the most soothing. It's the easiest for me to sleep with or to sleep to. For journaling or just when I want to quiet my mind in general, I use the brown noise. Like when I'm writing in my gratitude journal or when I'm writing in like my self-love journal, brown noise just works the best for me during that time. It can also be really good for if you are working, like if you're studying. It really does help you to stay focused while also staying relaxed. So that's what I use the brown noise for. And as for the nature sounds, I use those for my early morning meditation because that just works for me. But you can use the 3 sounds for whatever you want. Like, you can use the brown noise to sleep through, you can use the nature noise to sleep through. I'm just saying how I use each one. So because I use all three of these on a daily, it's like my brain is constantly being pumped with these messages about self-love. So I find that it is making a drastic difference. Like I said, I will leave the link to my Patreon in the description box so you can have access to all three of these sounds, and I would just recommend trying them out for a month and you will see a big difference, I'm telling you. So that's pretty much it. I hope that this was helpful to you guys. I hope that the tips that I gave will be beneficial for you to start cultivating genuine unconditional self-love, and as you continue on your self-love journey, you will start to see that the world will just look completely different to you. It's like the more I love myself unconditionally, it's like I'm seeing the world through a whole different lens, and I truly do feel like that is the reason that this journey is so important. In order for us to live a life that is of peace and is fulfilling, our relationship with ourselves has to be first priority, and we have to really build a solid, unconditionally loving environment within ourselves that we did not get when we were children. So yeah, that's it, you guys. I hope that this was helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.